Hello team and welcome to the 2022 Process Programming Summer Throwdown. My name is Ed. With me today in the studio is Mr. Alex Younger.
Hello team.
We're here to present workouts 1 and 2 for week 1 of the Summer Throwdown. Al, take us away.
So week 1 is called Surfs Up and it is going to be a 22-minute AMRAP. We're going to start with 3 rounds of, if you're in live, 30 wall balls, 30 dumbbell snatches, 15 burpees over the erg, and then as many calories on the rower as you can in the remaining time. Again, you'll go through 3 rounds of the 30, 30, 15. As soon as you're done, you're going to move on to the rower and accumulate calories. If you're in Perform, Compete, or Elite, it's the same 22-minute window. Still going through 3 rounds, but your wall ball reps are higher, so you're going to go through 40 wall balls, 30 snatches, and 15 burpees over the erg. And then in the remaining time, you'll go through as many calories as you can. There's 2 scores for this workout. The first score is the time taken to complete the 3 rounds. The second score is the total amount of calories completed in the remainder of that 22-minute time cap.
As always, folks, make sure you download the scorecard, check the movement standards. There are some little bits in this piece that you need to pay attention to. For example, in our live division, men, you'll be using a 20 pound or 10 kg wall ball, but you'll be throwing to a 9-foot target. So make sure you read the small little details in there to make sure you're executing the workout correctly. What we're going to do now, we're going to head over to Dubai, where Ant Haynes and the CrossFit Aliyah crew took on this workout. So what you're going to have here, guys, is you're going to be watching some fine specimens in the sport of CrossFit.
Pretty darn fit people going through this, which is going to be fun to watch.
So essentially what we have here is we have 6 to 7 elite competitors. All of these people compete in the highest level of the sport, and they took on this workout. So, Al, you ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it.
Ready to go in 3, 2, 1, and we are underway. Al, before we even talk about what's happening in this video and the people doing this workout, what are your thoughts when you think about this workout?
There's 2 scores. So the first score is the time taken for the 3 rounds, and then the second score is the amount of calories. So realistically, for the 22 minutes, there's nowhere to hide for the 22 minutes. If you want to put in a good score, you're going to have to push on the first piece and also understand that you're going to have to push on the second piece at some point as well.
22 minutes is a long time. I think that's the first thing that I think about here.
21 minutes longer than I'd like to be moving for.
The catch in this workout, of course, is that given the fact that it's a 2-part workout, is that is pushing people to go harder on the first piece. Because, of course, whenever we have 2 workouts, and generally speaking, the objective is that we want to do decently well in both workouts. Yeah. The one strategy one might have is go as fast as you possibly can in one part of the workout and then potentially come last in the second part of the workout. What we generally find is the athlete who performs consistently, decently in both workouts would generally finish higher up on the leaderboard.
I think as well, a lot of the other workouts that we've seen where there's 2 parts, there's a rest period between workout 1 and workout 2. I think it's important to note that there's no rest between workout 1 and workout 2 here. So the fatigue that builds up is going to be a lot more than what there would be if there was a bit of a rest period in between the 2. Yeah.
So I think, depending on who you are as an athlete is going to really dictate how long you're essentially spending that rower. What we're probably going to see with these guys and girls in this workout is they're going to get through these first 3 rounds relatively quickly. Yeah. And they're going to be spending a fairly decent amount of time on that rower. So I wouldn't say it's enough time to necessarily be a rowing workout, because it's not just a rowing workout, because you still have to be doing well at wall balls, dumbbell snatches, and burpees over the erg. So really the name of the game for everyone here is to push the pace as much as you can in those first 3 rounds, but leaving enough on the tank so that you can continue to work for however is potentially long left on the row. Now, what you're going to see with these guys are going to give us an idea of, okay, well, this is what the top in the sport, this is how long they are spending the rower. What we can do from there, I know it's always hard when you watch really good athletes go, because it's sometimes hard to create a comparison, but if they're going to be spending, let's say 12 minutes on a rower, that may mean that I'm going to spend now 6-7 minutes on a rower. Yeah. So what does that mean in terms of, how do I want to feel if I've still got 6 to 7 minutes left?
Yeah. And also what pace you're going to be executing on the rower itself as well for those 6, 8, 10 minutes, probably for these guys. Obviously, the longer you're on the rower, we're going to have to understand what pace we'll be able
Yes.
to hold for that period of time.
I think, a general way that a general thing to think about in terms of how this workout should feel is that this should be an increasing gradient in terms of perceived effort.
Yeah.
So if you've got, a 22-minute time scale, over those 22 minutes, the rate of perceived exertion, how hard the workout is feeling or how hard you're working, should be slowly increasing as you go through the workout. Now, it gets a little bit confusing because, you're obviously wall balls, dumbbell snatches, and burpees are a very different type of fatigue to sitting on a rower.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about a few things in terms of technique and strategy here. So what we've seen, basically all of these guys and girls went unbroken in the first round. So they didn't put the wall balls down, didn't put the dumbbell snatch down. They moved fairly quick through the row. Now, it'll be interesting to see as they go through rounds 2 and rounds 3 is, do we see any attrition now?
Yeah.
Because what I want to see is that in a workout like this, where we have these 3 rounds to do, and this is only really the first half of the workout, if you are being forced into rest, what I mean by that is if you go too fast that you're having to break your reps because you simply cannot go unbroken anymore, what that tells me as well is that the athlete is getting closer and closer to failure. The closer and closer we get to failure, the longer our recharge time becomes. And we don't really want to be at any point in this workout before that row forced to rest, because if you're getting forced to rest, it means you're very close to your tipping point. You're very close to that red line, and you're only halfway through the workout.
Yeah. And just bearing in mind that you're only halfway through the workout, but that's only one of your scores as well.
Exactly. So what we're seeing here is Jake. He is now moving on to a second round, as is Loza. And these two guys, again, have gone unbroken and is now moving on to dumbbell snatch. Again, has gone unbroken. Still no athletes yet to break.
Yeah.
Cadence is staying fast. Now starting to see some slightly slower transitions happen already. All right. So what I mean by that is the time taken between the wall ball to the dumbbell snatch was a lot faster in round 1 versus round 2. So I think if we were to already look, if these athletes went unbroken here and we were to look at the pace taken to do round 2 versus round 1, I think we would already see a bit of a drop off.
Yeah.
So I think something just to think about is when you do get to that rower, I would expect to see most people to be breathing pretty hard when they get on the row and potentially to see a slower pace at the start. Settle into the row pace. And at some point, as you start to kind of recover, because you're only doing one movement now, so there could be like muscles that were working hard in the first piece that are now starting to kind of recover and generate.
Yeah.
And you're kind of finding your groove and then starting to pick up your pace. I think that's something we may definitely see on that rower.
For sure. I think as well, if we're looking at the two styles of burpees that are being used, if we're using Jake and Ant as examples here, where Jake pulled ahead on those as he's doing a jump back, jump forward. Ant's doing a jump back, step forward for a lot of them, which is a bit of a slower style of a burpee, but for the sake of 1 to 2 seconds, being able to row a little bit harder or being able to execute the next set a little bit quicker is definitely, I think, going to put them in a good place versus doing the jump style.
I think
you can actually see Jake's now moving to the step.
Jake's moving to the step now. So I think something to think about when you look at these guys and girls who are going unbroken through their movements, a question that I would ask is, where is the majority of these first 3 rounds spent on which of the 3 movements? So if we look at the cadence or the time taken to complete 40 wall balls versus 30 dumbbell snatches, which do you think, Al, do we complete faster if we do it all unbroken?
The dumbbell snatch.
Dumbbell snatch. Well, I would say the time taken per rep is relatively similar on those 2 movements, and the fact that it's slightly less. And then what about 15 burpees versus wall balls?
I think the burpees could be a place where people hit the wall a lot quicker than what you would with a wall ball. The cadence of a wall ball is quicker. You can really start to kind of get stuck on the floor or really slow down those burpees if that pacing beforehand kind of gets out in front of you.
Yeah, I would really say that there's not going to be too much different in the time taken to complete 40 wall balls versus 30 unbroken snatches versus 15 burpees.
They're all quite similar in terms of time frame.
So what we need to think about there is that a lot of people kind of take burpees for granted because we rarely do we get bottlenecked in a burpee where we can't do another rep. So what often happens, but I mean, people don't get stuck on the floor, like not able to get on the floor. But what we'll actually see, a strategy I think a lot of people might do on this, which I would say is a mistake, is thinking all about the wall balls, thinking all about the dumbbell snatches, and just thinking, well, I'll be able to get through the burpees. The reason I'm highlighting this is that what might happen is that you go through a big set of wall balls, get through them fast, go through a big set of dumbbell snatches, go through them fast, and then your cadence drops so much on your burpees that that's actually where you lose all your time. So don't celebrate doing bigger sets of wall balls and dumbbell snatches if at the end of the day you slow down so much in your burpees that's where you lose your time.
Yeah, and I think it's worth to note that if your cadence on a burpee slows down, that 3-second break on a wall ball to let the ball drop, settle, get your breath back, and then start again, versus now the cadence of your burpees slowing down 2 or 3 seconds per rep, that's a huge difference in terms of, like, I think a break-in strategy for the majority of people is going to be a smarter way to approach this workout versus trying to hold on and really slowing down on those burpees.
Yes. I think what we saw here is that we actually saw some of the athletes breaking in this third round. I know Ant broke there. I know David as well, one of our elite athletes, he had a little break there as well. Jake, who's leading the race at the moment, was super smooth through all 3 rounds so far. So I think what we'll say for most of these athletes, I'd say they had a pretty decent strategy here. Yeah. I would say that almost all of them, bar maybe Jake, the guy in the middle with the tattoos there, had a bit of attrition from round 1 to round 2 to round 3. You can actually see in their body language now, there's lots of deep breathing. You're seeing Alex here, one of our elite subscribers, is over on his knees, kind of not really where you want to be in round 3 of a workout, which is only essentially halfway through a workout.
Well, I think also looking at the clock, as we've just gone through 9 minutes, which means we've got 13 minutes left of, if you're already with hands on knees, that's 13 minutes that's going to really hurt versus trying to finish this first one. And obviously you have to push due to the fact that it's scored, but you don't want to be to the point of kind of no return at this point.
Yes. So I think something else we have to think about here is, once again, we talk about this all the time, is playing to your strengths. Yeah. Obviously I know Ant and I know Jake, both as athletes, and both of these guys are good rowers. I would say Ant is an elite rower.
Yeah.
So for someone like Ant here, he can perhaps afford to go, potentially not win that first workout, knowing that, even if he's 10 seconds behind a leading pace, he probably has the capacity to pull it back on a row and do really well there. I just want to go back again, just to seeing some of these different athletes here. I mean, again, we can't see everyone, but seeing Alex in the red shorts, again, he looks like he is grinding through these reps hard. Kind of looks like the strategies that's adopted here is that as if this was just a 3 ounce of time workout. Yeah. He's about to finish these snatches now, but he's still going to have 12 more minutes. Now, obviously, I could be completely wrong. Al could be a world-class rower and pull it back and have an exceptional score here. But just something to think about. Yeah, we don't want to be getting at that point where we're extremely fatigued and we're right now not even halfway through this workout.
Yeah. And I think that even now looking at it would be really interesting to know what pace that they're starting to hold right now and see if they are taking this period, let's say it's the first minute, is kind of a settle-in process.
Yes.
To then look to increase the pacing as we go through, just bearing in mind that there is still 11 minutes, so they're nowhere near, they're not halfway yet.
Yeah, exactly. So again, like, we want to see smooth movement here. We want to see body language should be good. We're at the halfway point, looking at Dave on that fast screen now. Little things that really make a big difference here. As you're about to transition into that row and you're still doing your burpees, get your row screen on.
Yeah.
What Dave has just done there, he's lost almost 10 seconds there where no repetitions were accumulated and he was just sitting still. So what I would be doing, maybe as I start the burpees for that final round, is I'm going to press that row screen, turn it on, finish my 15, and like we saw what Ant did really well, as did Jake, the moment you finish your last burpee, you're getting 1 foot in and you're starting that row.
Yeah.
We want to get that row clicking over and accumulating calories as fast as possible.
And I think that's something to really note here is versus resting, which is what I think David did when he first got on.
Let's have a look at Al here, sorry to interrupt. Yeah. But so Al's just finished, now he's about to start, he's grabbed a water bottle, kind of having a look around. We've now had, that's now 10 seconds on the clock gone, 11, 12, 13, Legend. 14. I mean, it is hot in Dubai. 15, I'll forgive you. 16, pouring some water on the head. These are all signs now that, this is not a position we want to be in halfway through this workout.
Yeah.
So Al's now strapping 1 foot in. He's getting the next foot in. He's thinking about the row.
It's a good 30 seconds.
That's basically. Almost 25 to 30 seconds gone where no repetitions were accumulated. Yeah. All right, so there's 2 parts to that. Number 1, transition fast, but make sure you're not in the position where you're having to need to take 30 seconds rest before you actually start going.
I think that's one of the thing I was going to say there is getting the wheel moving, the flywheel on the rower, and just rowing at a sub-maximal pace. You're still accumulating calories.
Just move it. Just get
moving.
Just
Even
get
if
moving.
You're rowing at half of the pace that you want to hold for the rest of the period of time, but those calories are then still ticking over versus doing absolutely nothing. You're just wasting there.
Yes. I think another thing to think about here is the movement selection. So we often talk about complementary movement patterns or non-complementary movement patterns. What we mean by that is, do the selection of movements in this combination of this workout, are they of similar movement patterns or similar muscles, or are they different? When we see different movement patterns, it means that generally speaking, when we move from one movement to the other, the muscles that have just worked get some recovery before you come back to them.
Yeah.
But what we're thinking about, what we're seeing with these movements here, you've got wall ball. For lots of people, we are slightly hunched over for most of us. So we've got the legs, the lower back, and the shoulders at play. We're then moving into a dumbbell snatch where we've got basically hamstrings, the back, and the shoulders at play. And then we've got the burpees over the rower. So we've got the back once again, we're hinging over. And then obviously we've got the quads and the shoulders. So we've got lots of interference of some sort in that first part of the workout, which means you're going to feel not just the aerobic system working here. You're going to feel things like your lower back. You're going to feel things like your shoulders. You're going to feel things like your quads, as well as your heart rate. It's going to be up.
Yeah.
Now, when we get onto rower, now what are we doing? We're pulling and we're using our back again. So again, something to think about, if you just push that first piece too hard, you go beyond that threshold, lower back starting to blow up, you've still got potentially, 6 to 10 minutes on a rower now. We don't want to be in a position where we cannot row anymore, because this is half the workout. This is a scored workout in itself.
Yeah. I think as well that then dictates what style of movement you choose for each of these. So if you're choosing to do a muscle snatch versus a power snatch, a muscle snatch, obviously you're pulling more, but you're not moving into as much knee flexion. A power snatch, you're moving into knee flexion, which is again used for the wall balls, move for the row. And then again, even the style of burpee that you choose, if you choose to step, more hip loaded. If you choose to jump back in, it's more hinge loaded, more hamstring loaded. So I think that also has a huge part to play in how you can execute this. And also, like you said before, being able to play to your strengths. So if I know that potentially I'm better being quad loaded, I'm going to choose a certain style of burpees or a certain style of dumbbell movement versus somebody that's potentially posterior better.
Yes. Let's talk about warming up for this workout, Al, because sometimes hard one to know how to warm up for these workouts when you've got kind of two parts and so many pieces involved. Obviously, one thing I would straight away think about is just the movement patterns that we need to be able to do for this workout. So lower back, hamstrings, shoulders, quads. We need to make sure all those positions and movements are feeling prepped and warm. And then it's really important we get the aerobic system really well warmed up, whether that's on the assault bike or different ergs. But really, I'd be making sure a large majority of that aerobic warm-up is actually spent on the rower. Yeah. Because that's, the hinge pattern. This pattern is going to get us nice and warmed up for the other movements like dumbbell snatch, the wall balls, and the burpees as well. In terms of kind of a nice little prep for this is I would start by actually doing a nice long row first. Then I would go in and actually make sure I'm really dialed in my 3 rounds for time. So the wall balls, dumbbell snatches, and burpees. And I think I would make sure that the last thing I do in my warm up is those 3 rounds. Yeah. Basically warming up those movements, because that's what we're going to have to do first. Yeah. Something that could be a really good idea just to get an idea of what kind of pace or what kind of time you're going to be looking at for that first workout is to do something like half of a round. Yeah. If you do something like half of a round at the pace you think you might be potentially working at, which means if you're planning on breaking your wall balls 20 and 20, then I would do my half round by breaking 10 and 10. Yeah. If you plan on breaking your dumbbell snatches once, then make sure you're breaking your warm-up round once as well, and do your burpees at the cadence that you think you're going to do. Yeah. By doing that, it will give you an idea of what one round might potentially feel like and how long it's going to take. What we're seeing now as well, we're seeing Al on the right. He looks like he's kind of pulled the pin in this workout.
That could be me on Friday.
I also saw Evie has also pulled the pin as well. Now, some context for these athletes. I know a lot of these guys have kind of just finished their season. Yeah. Both Evie and Alex were competing at semi-finals respectively. So, perhaps they just weren't in a position to be pushing this workout too hard. Maybe I'm just kind of guessing here, but it kind of looks like that might be the way. But we still have on screen here, I know we have Kaz, one of our elite subscribers, out to the right. But we still have Ant, Jake, and David going strong.
Alex is going again. Just took a little break.
Alex is back off again.
That looks very familiar.
Yeah, but I think it's just really important to see here, even really high level athletes like this, you can potentially get these workouts wrong. And just the name of the game for this one really is slow and consistent.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, with the warm up, I think knowing, or if you don't know how long 40 wall balls is going to take, 30 dumbbell snatch is going to take and 15 burpees, you're really at a disadvantage with your pacing versus even in your warm-up, if you do half of the reps and then double it, that just gives you a good indication of what kind of pace and what time frame you're going to be able to finish those 3 rounds, which then dictates how long or how fast you're going to have to row on the rower. Like these guys had 11 minutes, 12 minutes on the rower. If you're finishing those 3 rounds with only 3 minutes on the rower, then the chances are you're going to have to potentially row at a faster pace due to the fact that you've got less time on the rower.
Yes. Now, in terms of, estimating what kind of row pace you're going to do here, it's kind of a hard one to see.
Yeah.
A lot of people, some workouts, you could look to something like, use a 1K row pace, use a 2K pace, use a 5K pace. Really what you got to think about here is, what is a pace I can potentially hold for between a 6 to 10 minute window continuously. For those who've been in part of the process program, we've been doing a lot of kind of like 3 to 5 minute rows. So at least you should have some idea here. But then again, you've got to think, but before that, I would have done 10 minutes of hard work already. Yeah. So you've got to be realistic with your paces. I would say that for most people here, it's going to be get on the row, start moving, settle in at a pace that feels comfortable. And you just kind of gonna have to see what pace you hold as you go along. I think it's going to be very much by feel. Now, one thing I will say is that, for folks looking to push this workout, the last 1 to 2 minutes is where we want to see an increase in cadence of some sort. So what that may mean, increase in pace, I should say, it might mean increasing your strokes per minute. So if you're feeling like, which is quite likely, I think this might happen with me, is that, the end of 20 minutes of rowing wall balls, dumbbell snatches and burpees, I'm probably not going to have more power to give to each stroke. So what I might do to increase my pace is just to increase my strokes per minute. So kind of going in and out a little bit fast, but not necessarily pulling harder. I also know that, long, big, tall athletes may be able to use kind of bigger, longer, harder strokes rather than having to go in and out faster. So again, most of us will know or have done some form of like sprint finish to a row at some point. What we'd like to see is kind of as you get towards the tail end of this workout, I would say anywhere between like 1 to 2 minutes. It could be for some people just 30 seconds. It really depends how well you pace that row. If you've really not paced it well, you may only have a 10 to 15 to 20 second sprint finish. If you paced it well, you may have up to 2 minutes. And again, this is just how well you know your own engine and your own capabilities in terms of knowing when to push. So
I think we're looking at Alex now. We've got 2 minutes left. He's currently rowing at an 800, but I've just been watching that for a little bit, and it has been fluctuating between 800 and 1,100.
I feel like Al's now using this as a bit of a cool down, to be honest. I think he's decided, you know what, I'm done with this workout. I'm going to cool down. So what I'm seeing now, I saw Jake kind of start to increase his strokes per minute at about the 20-minute mark. David and Ant still look to be moving pretty smooth. I think Ant's starting to pick up the tempo a little bit here. Now, again, I don't know how hard these guys went. I know they didn't quite go all out. But what I would see, for people looking to really be competitive here and push, I'd like to see you kind of, this is where we close the eyes a bit, we grit the teeth, and we just give whatever we have left in the tank.
Yeah, well, we're starting to move into final minute. So these boys should now be starting to push a little bit more. That final minute, most of us can row for a minute with our eyes shut and grimace our way through that. So I think that's where you're going to see the scores for these fluctuate between the three of them.
I think one last thing to say, which we haven't talked about, is just the setup of your floor. Remember, there are no stipulations or requirements in terms of how you set up your floor. But I would be setting up just like these guys did, especially Ant, David, and Jake, setting up in close quarters. You want to be really moving from that wall ball straight to your dumbbell snatch, be able to move straight to your burpees. And just one quick one as well, on the burpees over the erg, you can be facing any way on your burpee. So most of these guys were lateral to their burpee. We were seeing Evie at the left of the screen, who's not there anymore. She was kind of attacking them at a bit of a diagonal. Just find and feel what feels most comfortable. Again, these are things that you need to play around with in your warm-up. Same with your dumbbell snatch. You're going to do touch and goes. You're going to be doing a mid-air changeover. Where are you breathing in your wall balls? Spend time in a low fatigue or no fatigue based setting, just dialing those small little technique pieces to make sure that that's kind of second nature when you get into workout. So these guys just finished now. I mean, the fact that not too many of them are just falling off their rows, like David's on his knees, Jake's looking fit. We know he's aerobically a very fit person. Ant's done well. Loz is on her feet straight away as well. So it looks like these guys have probably saved a little bit in their tank. So awesome job. Cool, folks. So, little last reminder from us: just make sure you go through the workout standards. Make sure you read through those things in detail. Watch all the videos. If you have any questions on standards, anything like that, you can always reach out to team. Otherwise, good luck on this workout. We'll see you on the leaderboard.
Week 1 in the bag.